Recently, a customer contacted me and asked me to make them a custom chest plate made from green Goyard. I developed the pattern, and from there, I ran down to visit the Goyard store. I actually purchased a green Goyard bag as well as a red Goyard bag for another project. The green Goyard is actually one of my favorite textiles to work with. Here I'm pretty much destroying the bag that I just purchased, removing the seams, removing the handles, and just getting it back to the raw canvas so that we have a flat textile to work with. Here I have the pattern laid out, making sure we have enough material for the item. Cutting down the leather. This is a cowhide. I used Italian Napa for this project. I found a cool green that matched the Goyard green. Here we want to trace the pattern on top of the textile to make sure that the Goyard logo is centered under the pattern. There it is, nice and center. Use the magnets to hold the pattern down on top of the textile to the metal table. For me, it's really important that those Goyard logos are symmetrical or centered. This is the plate that sits behind the Goyard textile. Cutting that down according to the pattern as well. The chest rigs are dear to my heart because this was my breakout product back in early 2017. I just wanted to make a bag that was masculine and hands-free, and this bag pretty much impacted the world, if you will. I sold so many of them and got recognition from this. Here I'm just skiving down the edges to get the leather thin, so when you fold it, it's not too bulky. You want those corners and edges nice and thin when you go to fold them or sew them to the leather. Here's the front pocket, nice and symmetrical. Some backing on the rear side to give it structure and extra strength. Here we want to crimp the corners as we hammer it down just to stop it from creasing in the corner. So you give it small crimps and then hammer down the edges to get it nice and smooth. This is going to give you those clean edges, that nice clean look. Some designers like to start from a reference to create a pattern. I like to create a pattern from scratch. I feel like you only get so many chances to get an idea off. It should be original if possible. Pulling teeth, literally. When I started, I would use Riri zippers and Riri pullers. I still use Riri zippers. I buy the white and I had to have this one dyed green. But now I have my own custom pullers that I use for these projects. When I first started making this bag, I would make them out of leather and gator and snakeskin, and I refused to make them out of LV or Goyard. But I had a customer whose mother had left him a Goyard collection when she passed away. And I suggested that we cut up the Goyard bag that his mother had left him and use it to create a bag that was more masculine that he could carry. And he agreed, and we came up with that first Goyard chest rig. The product really took off. Sometimes you could pre-measure the leather perfectly. Other times it's good to just stitch it on and then cut off the excess leather, get a nice clean finish. Initially, I was opposed to cutting up LV or Goyard because I felt like it wasn't original. But then I realized that my designs were original, and I realized that I was upcycling bags that in a lot of cases were no longer useful and turning them into something new. And I realized that I could take these products and give them a new life. It's something about watching a creation come to life that's so fulfilling. Like, you start with a pattern, and I call that like ideation. And then you sit at your machine and you get the materials and you start putting that together. And I call that the creation process. And then, for this particular project, 32 hours. After 32 hours of, preparing and cutting and sewing and crafting, finally you have fruition, which is this final product, which started in the mind. So you repeat this process over and over, and each time you try to get a little better, a little better. For me, I love design, but I particularly love craft. Like, I love craftsmanship. This is not like textile. We don't zip through and speed through the product. Stitching is literally every stitch is on point or as best as possible to try to get the perfect product in the end. Every detail matters. Every time you cut a corner or put a jagged stitch, it affects the end product. So if you can craft each component meticulously, you'll see a greater outcome in the end. Here we're burning the edges, getting rid of those loose strands of hair and frays of the leather and the backing to get it nice and smooth. Then we add a seal to the edge, and finally the edge paint to close it all up and finish the look. This is my first time posting a video this long. I took a poll and asked people if they wanted to see the full process, and they said yes. So here you have it. Here's the final product. If you like it, please share.